Welcome to The Chaos Antidote, a leadership podcast hosted by Jason E. Neal, author of Accidentally Aligned: How Leaders Create Value in Chaos. Through these episodes, we will be exploring real-world problems and applying solutions that reduce your chaos and help you to become accidentally aligned. Hello everyone, this is Jason E. Neal, author of the book Accidentally Aligned: How Leaders Create Value in Chaos. This book is available on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, paperback, hard copy. Recommend pick this up. It's a good book. It's a good resource to have. 25 years experience. I share everything in there. I don't hold anything back. So I encourage you to pick that up. Today we're going to talk about the Tact time trap, why sizing for the surge wrecks lean cultures. So here's a question I get. I get asked this a lot, usually by someone who is looking at a spreadsheet with a due date with bold red font. And this is what they say: we're behind on customer delinquency, demand is spiking. Do I size my line? Do I size my head count, my equipment on my whole process, or for the surge, or do I just do what I actually need until we catch up? So this is the question that I get a lot. This is what I find. Everybody wants to answer with math. So we pull out our calculators and use our our math formulas, and we come up with a solution and say, yeah, definitely this is what you should do. But here's what I found: it's not a math problem. It's trust problem that wears a math costume. And I've watched it wreck a plant before, and I want to walk you through that today. So, what Tact time actually is and what it isn't. Tact time is simple on paper. It's available working time divided by customer demand. It's what we would call the heartbeat of your process. It's what needs to match it's what you need to match to deliver what the customer actually needs, exactly when they need it, no faster, no slower. A lot of times, when I go to plants, and the customer needs 100 and they have 90, they'll say, yeah, we're behind, or we're red, or things aren't going very well. But if the customer needs 100 and we have 3,000 on hand, we're green. But because we have more than the customer needs, that's not green, that's red, right? And this is where Tact can help us to align with our customer demand so that we can hold the actual inventory that's needed, plus the necessary buffers with the plan to reduce those buffers, to get what the customer needs when they need it on time. Most people get the formula right, and they get the philosophy wrong. Here's where I've found that it breaks. Mistake one: blending your demand. So a lot of times when I go into plants, there will be a high delinquency, and then there will be a rate. So the plant will say, maybe I need 5 engines a week, or I need, if it's a diaper line or something, I need 100 diapers an hour, 1,000 diapers an hour produced, which is fine, right? But it's plus delinquency. So we look at that and we say, well, the Tact's actually much faster because we need a lot more capacity that's built in there. So if you're running a full annual Tact while sitting on the customer delinquency you need cleared by December, let's say for example, you're averaging 2 completely different realities into one number. You get a Tact time that's too slow for the recovery window that actually matters, and it's too fast for the column that follows. So what happens is a lot of times people will say, well, let's blend this, and we have calculated the illusion of having a Tact. So we'll take the customer demand and the customer demand plus delinquency, and then we'll create an average of those two Tacts. But what we've actually built the line for is an abnormal condition, because if we're problem solving, if we are removing those obstacles, what should be happening is we should be changing the cycle time, we should be changing the touch time, manual time, converting to auto time where we can, and creating flow so that we can actually produce this in a different state. So if we size our line, we build our hard capacity for that, we will be stuck with hard capacity when we're done. So the fix: build 2 Tact times, one for the recovery horizon, recalculated on a real cadence. I use 30 days. I tell people to refresh every 30 days their Tact time, because we assume delinquency is going to burn down, and it doesn't always. Things happen, right? You may get new orders dropped in. There's just, right?
my book, how leaders create value in chaos, right? Chaos happens. We live in that world. One is for sustainable steady state, once the backlog clears. And you don't want to smear them together and call it annual planning, because you will size the line incorrectly and you will cause issues. Mistake 2, planning around absenteeism. So a lot of times, when we build our available time, we'll put, vacation, which you should. If you have, vacation, people are going to take it. You expect them to take it. You should plan for that. If you're building on a 5-day work week, 10-hour day, then that's your available time. You wouldn't want to build in your weekends if your people aren't going to be there, right? If that's not part of your schedule, you don't want to do that. The sick time is actually part of your OEE. It's availability. So I would not recommend you bake sick time in, even if you offer 2 weeks of sick time and you're like, well, we know people will probably take at least 5 days. Fair, that's fine. But I would not bake that into your calculation. I would treat sick time as OEE, and that's going to be your availability component, because we don't know how many sick days people are going to take. We don't know that they're going to get sick at all, and they may take far more than we imagine. But that's an availability issue, right? So we handle that through OEE and a standard work buffer, but not through your available time math. So the buffer that we would create, you would check your OEE, you would watch your availability, and then you would buffer that, and then you would problem solve what's going on with that issue and how might we be able to change that. So now we're to the real question, right? So I kind of walked you through some pieces there, but here's the real question. What do you size the line for? So if we're not going to do a blended, we don't want to do a full capacity with delinquency, and we don't want to do the standard because we'll never catch up. So what do, right? So this is where it gets interesting, because the honest answer isn't the recovery number. It's this. Size your permanent line, equipment, core head count, layout for sustainable steady state takt time. Cover the recovery gap with flexible capacity. So you're going to flex for the surge, and then you're going to build on the steady state. So when you get done, you're actually going to have a line that runs at Takt, and then we haven't consumed a whole bunch of extra resources and cost, and you're not laying people off, right? Because this is a temporary surge. We know it's going to go away. We know that we're using problem solving. And if you're not using problem solving, then your actual condition probably is delinquency, because you're never going to get any better. So I would not follow my guidance if you're not going to problem solve and you're not going to change anything. Then you're always going to have the condition of run at rate plus delinquency. That's always going to be your condition. I'm assuming that you're following lean practices and you're problem solving. You're going to reduce the delinquency, and that's going to go away, and you're going to have different problems to solve later, not the ones you're solving today. So there's a great assumption there that I will say. So overtime, temp labor, contract crew, borrowed operators from a lower Takt line, right? So if you're building your shop correctly, you'll know what your different rates are and where you might have capacity. You want to name this as from day one as temporary. This is tied to a condition. It's until delinquency clears. That's why we're doing it. It's not going to be folded into permanent headcount. It's not what we're doing. Why does this matter so much? Because I've seen the other version play out, and it costs a whole lot more than money. So I want to walk you through this. What happens when we get this backwards? Years ago, I worked with a plant that did exactly what I just told you not to do. So we sized the line for recovery surge. We ran an aggressive Kaizen, multiple Kaizens, to do this. When I say that, I'm talking about not Kaizen, change good, the word, continuous improvement. I'm talking about the 1 week structured events where we just, dismantle everything and rebuild it to a value stream to create, greater value for the customer. And here's what actually happened. Once we hit capacity, the team kept running. So we built this line. We knew that we were going to build it to a Takt time, and we built that Takt time to run at rate plus delinquency. And then we put a stop signal, and we said, okay, once we get to this inventory level, we know what our buffers are. The buffers are there because of OEE issues, and we have problem solving around those OEE issues. We're going to try to improve that. We have machine improvements. We have some catalog machines that are on the floor, and we're putting engineering into those to make those what they need to be. So we know that we're going to fix these issues, and we did, right? And we created flow. But once we got out of that and we said, once we get this on rate and we understand what that number is, let's just say, a 6-minute Tact. I'm just throwing that number out there. Let's just say that's what it was. Once we get to that, we're going to run at rate, and then when the inventory buffers are satisfied, we're going to stop. And then if we need to move those workers to other lines or other jobs, then we'll do that. We'll leave the line stopped, and we'll bring them back as the customer pulls on those demands, and then we'll keep moving. But when we came to the point to stop, the team just kept running. And it wasn't out of defiance. It was because machine utilization was being reported to finance, and finance wanted a depreciation schedule to hit a certain rate. So you're dealing with, in a matrix, you have the org chart, and there are different silos, there are different pillars. So now you have one pillar reaching into another and extracting for a KPI. So the team was doing exactly what they were measured on them. Nobody told them the rules had changed. Now this is really important because the result was overproduction, excess inventory. The exact waste that our pull system was designed to prevent. And it was created how? It was created by the pull system. Let that sink in for a second, right? We created waste by creating a pull system and trying to seek to create flow by doing all the things that we know are right. Why? Because two scorecards were fighting over the same machine, and the wrong one had more organizational weight. You really need to understand what I just said there. that is detrimental to your lean journey, where you don't have the communication and alignment up front. Once we solved the actual root cause problems and the cycle time came down, we didn't need the capacity we built. So what do? We laid people off. Right? That's what happens. You run and you say, hey, there's nothing to do. People are standing around. So we need to get rid of them. And when the demand comes back, we'll call them back if they're still interested in the job. And that's what happens. This is the part that actually mattered. Why? Because Kaizen worked. The plant improved their process, and then they punished the people who improved it. You don't recover from that with a memo. Every person on the floor learned a lesson that day, and it wasn't the one on the poster. Surface less waste, protect the job, slow walk the next improvement, right? Your culture, people know what your culture is. They do. And it doesn't matter what we say, it doesn't matter what our posters are, it doesn't even matter if we show up at the Gemba and we're there every single day and we're talking to them and we're being buddies with them. Look, people know. People know how much we're going to tolerate. They know if we're going to follow our standards. They know, at the end of the day, where they're going to stand. So what's the fix? I can tell you what it's not. It's not a better spreadsheet. It's alignment. That this is the fix, right? And again, people say, well, Jason, why do you spend so much time talking about behavioral stuff? Why don't you talk about the tools? But this is literally the answer to that question. It is literally the answer to that question, because when you focus on the tools and you don't understand the behavioral, you don't understand the structural elements, you don't understand the way that an organization can weigh on people and on processes and on standards, and we don't take time to talk about that, you will fail. You will absolutely fail, because people will realize that we're not doing what we're saying. They will realize we're not authentic, and they will protect themselves. That's what will happen. So here's the thing that the critics are going to push back on, and they should, because it's a fair challenge. Isn't no layoffs just idealism that finance will never sign off on? Fair question, right? I hear a lot of times when I go to different companies, right, and I take my experience to other companies and try to help them, and they'll say, we're a family here. We're a family here. And then I get to talking to people, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So this person got cancer and they couldn't produce, and they were put on a performance plan, and they were pushed out of the organization, and that's wild, because family doesn't do that, right? So you're not a family, right? And it's very important to when we say things, don't devalue things that actually are that. So when we say things and we say we are a lean culture, or we are a family, or safety is first, if it's not, you're just devaluing everything that is. Because when people hear it later, they'll be like, yeah, I've heard that before. I know what that means, right? and we're better off just to not say it. And I write this in my book, about authenticity. If safety's not first, don't say it. Nobody cares. Like, you don't have to go around and act like it is. If it's not, don't say it. Just be quiet about it. Talk about something else. But when it genuinely is the most important thing to them, or quality genuinely is the most important thing to those people, if you've said it and you didn't mean it, and you never intended to mean it, you devalue them when they come to teams and they try to make changes with the right intentions and the right motives, right? And that's the behavioral piece that I always talk about. But here's my answer. This isn't a floor level fix. This requires alignment, at least at the VP level. Before the event ever starts running, before your line ever starts running, before you begin to change or you sign off on anything, you have to have alignment at least at the VP level. Because the conflict lives above the floor. That's why. If you try to solve this at the floor, good luck. You don't. Remember, I say this a lot, and if you watch my videos, you read my posts, you'll know this. Authority is great. Influence is great. When you can exercise influence with authority, that is better. That is the ideal condition. We don't want people operating in pure authority, and we don't want to send people out on suicide mission operating in pure influence. It's the match. You want to have the match of authority with influence. That is aligned power, aligned influence, and you're not operating as a as a dictator. You're saying, I have the authority. I'm choosing not to exercise it. I would rather influence this organization, but I do have authority here if we begin to violate our standards. And that alignment is huge when you're trying to deploy lean or transformation as a whole. So operations sponsors the Tact-based design and makes the rule a stop at Tact, a non-negotiable standard. That belongs to operations. Finance has to explicitly agree. It has to be in writing, in a real forum, not a hallway nod where somebody's like, whatever you need, we got it. No, that's not enough. We have to have that written down. We have to make sure that the accountable owners and the responsible parties understand that is the rule and that you will back that when we need you to follow this rule. If finance won't commit to this, you're rebuilding my mistakes. That's what you're doing. And you might do it with better intentions, I don't know, but you will rebuild what I've just described, and I've already lived it, and it's not cool, it's not fun, and you will hurt people. Site leadership is going to own the authority to enforce the stop, and that person's own performance review cannot reward them for overriding it. I want you to hear what I just said there. If a person can override a standard and get a good performance review, you're not going to win. I'll just save you the time. You didn't even need to get this far in the video. I could have put that first, because don't even go. People will follow. Again, remember what I said, people understand your culture. Doesn't matter what you say, but it does matter what you do. And if we're rewarding people for violating a standard, if people can still get promoted, if they can go up and make more money and get big bonuses for violating a standard, you have failed. I would just tell you that's not going to go anywhere. HR or the workforce leadership, they're going to own the redeployment plan for the flex labor. That will be decided before the surge starts, not improvised after. So we need to know the numbers. Let's do a capacity analysis. If you got to take 2 days out and do a capacity event, look at your soft capacity numbers, look at your full-time equivalents, whatever it is you need to do. Know what those numbers are, know where they're going to come from, and align that with the leaders to make sure that they're there. That has to hold. If it doesn't, you're going to keep struggling. You're going to live in forever land of demand plus delinquency. That will be your world forever. If you skip that alignment and you just fix the math, and a lot of people do, you're going to get a beautifully calculated line that runs right past its own stop signal. That's what will happen. Because somebody's scorecard says on it, keep it busy. That's what's going to happen. So there's not a permanent, one size fits all to any of this. I can tell you that the advice and the feedback that I'm giving you right now is sound. I've lived it. I've seen it. I've worked with several master senseis. We have walked through this process many times, and these were my mistakes. If you learn better making your own mistakes, you're more than welcome to go do this, and maybe one day you can be sharing this instead of me and sharing with other people. If we are able to learn and deploy that learning and share it with others who are teachable, I can tell you it will hurt a lot less and you'll move a lot faster, and that's good for everybody. It's good for people that are on the line. It's good for people that are, their livelihood depends on this. It's better for everyone if we can get this now. So I want to share with you, Tact time is not a formula problem. It's a discipline problem. It is, and that's why I talk about behaviors all the time. That's where it lives. Discipline only survives in contact with an organization when the incentives above the floor are pointing at the same direction as the standards on the floor. That is huge right there. Are your incentives aligned with your standards? If they're pointing in another direction, people will follow them. People are intelligent. They're going to figure that out. That's the whole idea behind accidentally align. And it's why I do this. It's why I wrote the book. It's why I have done the things that I've done. If you fix the number without fixing the alignment, you haven't built a lean process, you build a countdown to your next layoff. That's what we're trying to avoid. If this made you rethink the way your line or your plants are being sized or your processes are being launched, or if you've lived through your own version of this story, I would love to hear it. If this helps you in any way, shape, or form, click the subscribe button, click the like, share this with people in your network. I don't make any money for this. This is something I do just to share my experience because I wish someone would have shared it with me as I was learning these things, and I did not have a resource to go to and gather this information. So this is just something I do to share. So please, help keep this going, and let's make tomorrow better than today. Thank you.